Starting right now, the Rita Panahi Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Rita Panahi Show. I'm Danica Giorgio. Coming up tonight, Richard Marles admits to flaws in the wording of the Israel-Palestine section of Labor's new policy. My panel will cover that and the day's other top headlines. Victorian Premier Jacinta Allen's leadership under dire threat. James Campbell will have the latest. Josh Hammer from the US, including the Democratic Socialists of America, calling for the abolishment of prisons and borders. And Meghan Markle appears on MasterChef Australia. Kinsey Schofield has the latest royal and entertainment news. And of course, lefties losing it, and a big welcome to the Trans for Palestine movement.
Free, free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea!
But first, Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles has privately admitted the wording of the Israel-Palestine section of Labor's new policy platform was flawed, despite the PM claiming that they got the balance right. Demands on Hamas and the Palestinian Authority were controversially dropped in the final draft released ahead of Labor's 50th National Conference as part of a raft of changes that increased criticisms of Israel, with those words endorsed unchanged by 400 delegates at the event. Now the Australian understands that Marles warned right faction delegates that pushing for an amendment risked a debate on the conference floor that could ultimately lead to harsher criticisms of Israel, and his recommendation saw pro-Israel delegates reluctantly agree to drop an amendment to call on Hamas to have no role in a Palestinian state. Joining me now for more on this, News24 contributors Louise Roberts and James Bolt. Great to have you both on the show. Thank you so much for joining me. James, it's very clear Labor are so split on this. You've got the left faction, the right faction. The right faction of Richard Marles is saying one thing. Members on the left, for example, Ed Husic, saying another. Why do you think that they can't come to an agreement on Israel?
It's bizarre, and it's like a long-lasting thing. And as you say, they're split, but clearly there's a very much more on the anti-Israel agenda, because Richard Marles is making these concessions to avoid a debate in which the final thing might be even more anti-Israel than what we've seen. And what's bizarre about this to me is that, look, anti-Semitism in Australia is a huge issue, but the exact, Israel v Gaza v Palestine, that hasn't been as big an issue because there's not as much war to talk about. So I just think, if I'm a Labor voter and I've got all of these cost of living worries and I've got these, the rise of AI worries, I'm watching the Labor conference and they've spent an entire day and they've got all this all this emotion, all this hand-wringing in the national papers about Israel. I'm thinking, wait, hang on. Can you guys talk about the issues that Labor voters want you to talk about?
Yeah, actually, that is a very good point, because while this is obviously an important issue when it comes to anti-Semitism, Labor voters are going, well, hang on a second, I can't pay my bills right now. The petrol's about to go up again. I think that's a really, really good point. But look, anti-Semitism is a big problem in this country. Louise, the Prime Minister, notoriously, we know about his anti-Israel past. He was a pro-Palestinian advocate when he was at university. But now he's at odds with Richard Marles on this issue. Yeah. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, I think James is right. I mean, it seems to be more about keeping the factions happy rather than actually sending a clear message to Jewish Australians that we support you, that we are going to insist that, a terrorist organisation cannot have control and form part of government, that we're actually going to be very clear about our anti-Hamas position. But this has been completely diluted. And I'm really concerned that Richard Marles knew the wording was wrong, but still voted, because it seems that keeping the factions happy and avoiding some sort of internal bloodbath was more important, which, is so offensive to many Australians, particularly our Jewish Australians.
Yeah, keeping the factions happy, just like Labor has put our values last when it comes to votes over the last couple of years. So, yeah, they're typical of Labor. Now, Anthony Albanese has refused to answer questions about attending a $10,000 a head fundraising dinner hosted by controversial Sydney businessman Felix Lee. Here he was on the ABC.
Did you attend a dinner at the home of Felix Lee in Point Piper?
Oh, look, I attend lots of functions.
What about this one?
I attend lots of functions in lots of places, including last night right here.
What about this dinner at Point Piper?
I attend lots of functions in lots of places.
Why do you want to answer that?
Well, I do. You've just said that that occurred. That's fine. I attend lots of dinners in lots of places.
No, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here at all, James. What I find just astonishing about all of this is last week Labor spent the entire week criticising Pauline Hanson for being in Italy with Gina Reinhardt, with the mining magnate. But the Prime Minister just can't seem to answer questions about this dinner. Why?
We talked about this on Opinionated. It's the idea that, like, all of Labor's attack lines seem to be completely undone by Labor themselves. Like, we've got this instance in which, all the attack lines on Pauline Hanson, that she's a puppet of Gina Reinhardt, as ridiculous as that is, completely gets undermined when you're having dinners and you don't talk about what's going on. And then a couple of weeks before this, we had Anthony Albanese, who says that Pauline Hanson doesn't have the temperament to be Prime Minister, doesn't speak prime ministerially, joking about the Japanese Prime Minister's melons. Like, they are just undoing all of their attack lines against one nation, which they can't afford to do. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, I completely agree. Why the lack of transparency, do you think, when it comes to this particular dinner, Louise?
Well, the thing is, it's a bit unusual because there's no one is actually saying it was illegal to go to this dinner, although the optics are bad. 10K per plate, basically, billionaire mansion, Point Piper. Not good when your rank and file Labor supporters are actually struggling with cost of living. So, I mean, the optics are poor, but yeah, it's just this reluctance the Prime Minister has to explain himself in situations or pretend there's nothing to see here. The classic falling off the stage at the conference.
Oh, yes.
Pre-campaign
was as well.
Yeah, so we see what we can see. So why doesn't he acknowledge that? Why doesn't he say, yes, I went to this dinner and maybe we talked about things? And, of course, all parties have donors. And, as you say, he's been going after One Nation for Gina Reinhardt's support. So it's very hypocritical, I think.
I agree. It's not like the Labor Party hasn't had its fair share of billionaire donors over the years.
But that's okay.
Well, but that's all right.
That's their support.
Do as I say, not as I do kind of approach. I want to talk about the former Qantas boss, Alan Joyce. Look, the guy was woke as, I mean, who can forget the Voice campaign, the Yes campaign? He wasn't the best CEO, but he's now expressed regret over how he handled the COVID pandemic. But he also notes that hindsight is a beautiful thing and, quote, with the information we had at the time, I still don't think there was any other decision you could make. OK, fine, I would agree that, hindsight is a wonderful thing, James, but this guy was an activist through and through, and I'm not sure he actually brought a lot of benefit overall to Qantas, really. But what do you make of that?
Well, especially the way he left, was Qantas was really criticised a lot in the media. It was a lot of soul-searching and it's taken years to recover. And I just think if I'm, like, senior at Qantas right now and I see Alan Joyce doing a big publicity tour of his new book, I'm thinking, like, please, like, you've done your part. Can we please move on from you? He said, that writing this book was a cathartic experience to the Sydney Morning Herald. A cathartic experience is keeping a diary. Like, writing a book is a bit like, I'm still here. Here's my opinions. Here's all the things I wish I could say, but media's not interviewing me anymore. And I just think, have some loyalty to the brand that you had a big part of your life and paid you a lot of money, and know when to step away and to step away for good and give them the clear air to put away the end of your tenure. And also, I think just walk away after so many mistakes were made in that COVID era. Let the brand redevelop without him just being like an annoying fly, really, who just keeps getting the ghost. It's like the ghost just keeps coming back, start afresh. But, I mean, what is he seeking here, do you think?
I think he's got relevance deprivation syndrome. Yeah. I really do. And I think he repeatedly says in those interviews that he wants Australians to judge him as the CEO who stopped Qantas from going bankrupt. That's not how people remember Alan Joyce. No. They remember the ghost flights. They remember the absolute anguish of people not being able to meet their families. They remember, the refund nightmares, the scheduling incidents, everything. That's how people remember his tenure at Qantas during COVID and after COVID. Plus, remember, just after COVID, when Qantas posted those record profits, which really rubbed the salt in the wound, particularly of those, 1,820 people who got fired.
Yeah, exactly.
And a High Court judge said that decision was illegal at the time.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's still defending it in a way with the hindsight lens over it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Relevance deprivation syndrome. Yes. I think it's time for Alan Joyce to disappear into the never and just let Qantas sort itself out without him loitering around. Now, I know you two have seen all the Labor Instagram videos that are doing the rounds. We certainly have. But federal politicians are actually spending millions of dollars of your money and countless hours producing these social media videos for TikTok and Instagram that are being watched for less than 3 seconds. Stuff like this. Yeah, I know. We're all cringing. We are all cringing. Now, in the past 6 years, Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, said the Labor Party had spent just under $6.5 million on posts about social issues, elections or politics. The Liberal Party spend was just under $2.5 million. Every time I see those ads, James, I just cringe. But, you know, it's your money that's being spent. Is it worthwhile?
I love Tame Impala. I love the song Dracula. And now every single time I hear it, I've got Jeremy Laxdale's beaming face just in my mind's eye. And I'm a victim of this. But the problem is it works. Like, look, it's not for you, it's not for you, it's not for me, it's not for the people watching at home, but it is for people that don't really follow politics, that really think about politics once every 3 years. And if they see someone they recognise from their Instagram feed, they're probably more likely to just go, hey, he seems like a fun person, he likes the same music I do, why don't I vote for him? And like, we are going to be stuck in this until it's found out that it doesn't work, but unfortunately it does work.
Yeah, and I guess as well, it probably is there to appeal to a younger voter as well, as James said. The people who are not actively engaged in politics, so, you know, like we are, they're scrolling on their social media, they see a politician doing a dance, they maybe go, oh, what is he talking about? But is it a worthwhile spend?
Well, the question is the money, isn't it? So it should be taxpayer dollar on funding this sort of thing. And I don't know if it maybe does work in some capacity, but I think for younger voters who would see these cringy politicians dancing to music, they'd be swiping. And the data sort of seems to support that it's not wholesale working for the demographic they're going after. They think, you know, politics, make that entertainment, social media rewards entertainment, and sort of conflated the two. But it's a bit patronising to younger sort of 20-something people who actually want to know what the government's going to do for them after saying they're going to save the housing market and let them buy a house. And then now they're pumping out this social media, which doesn't sort of relate to that.
No, it certainly doesn't link to intergenerational equity.
No, it does not.
No, whatever happened to that word? That sort of disappeared into the never.
Post on that.
No, exactly. Nobody will be dancing to intergenerational equity at any time soon. Now, a new rapid response police unit, which came about after the Bondi terror attack, is expected to be established by November. So this outfit will comprise of 250 dedicated officers armed with custom assault rifles and equipped with specialised BMW SUVs. James, look, I think it is a shame that it took a terror attack like this to finally get some more protection, I guess, for the police force. But is it too little too late?
Well, I mean, obviously it is too little too late for a fair few people on Bondi Beach, which is terrible. It's also, it's not coming until November, and I just think, like, what was the bureaucracy that needed to pass in order to, I mean, you know, Bondi was a couple of months ago now. November's a couple of months away. Is this a case of it's just so hard for the police to get through a tactical unit like this? Is the funding an issue? Like, why would it take that long for something like this to be set up? That's the biggest question I have from this.
Yeah, that's a good point. And look, I think it's good that they're being equipped with assault rifles because obviously at Bondi, the officers only had the Glocks on them and they were completely outgunned, and that's what the Royal Commission heard at the time. And I think it was within a matter of about 30 seconds, 11 people out of the 15 that died were shot. So I think it is good that finally police are getting the armour that they deserve. But, you know, to that point, I mean, little too late now. It is
definitely for the victims of Bondi and their families, but at least now they're in a better position if we do have another attack on the soil, God willing we don't, that at least they've got some capability, and they should have always had more armed response capability in my book. I think the issue now as well is, are there enough police officers? It's their recruitment is a big issue, and if you've seen in Victoria how badly the police were treated during COVID, and New South Wales Police, who are a fantastic organisation, they also need support. They need to be bringing new recruits through the ranks who are actually going to staff these special units. It's great to have all the infrastructure and the whiz-bang cars and the gun capability, but we need police to do it. We need people to want to join the force. I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. Well,
actually, that's a really good point, because there is a recruitment crisis, not just in New South Wales, it's across the country, but in other areas, you know, paramedics, they need recruits as well. Our specialist teams really need that help. So without them, then, you know, then there's really no point arming them and equipping them with what they need. James Bolt, Louise Roberts, great to have you both on. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Well, Jacinta Allen's leadership is under dire threat, with the Victorian Premier to face a leadership challenge just 4 months out from the November state election. Joining me now is Herald Sun Associate Editor James Campbell. James, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. Look, there have been reports of rumblings of a challenge in the party room for months now. So why now?
Because they're running out of time, basically. It's clear that the polls are getting worse. Her personal numbers are getting worse. And with 4 months to go, this is probably the last chance they feel that they can do something. They're convinced that, that there's no chance of victory under her. In fact, they're going to be smashed. Their primary votes in the kind of mid-20s. So they are doing it because they feel they have to do it, I guess.
Well, I mean, we mentioned the polls before. The polls for Jacinta Allen haven't been good for a while now. With only a couple of months out until November, how big of a difference would a change in leadership make now? Would that actually favour the Labor Party, or people will go, oh, enough is enough, we're still going to vote for the Libs?
Well, time will tell. I think the view is that the matchup between Allen and Jess Wilson just wasn't working to Labor's favour. So the view is they need a contrast. They want to go with a bloke. The reality was, you know, and you can say this again and again and again, if you have an unpopular leader, people won't listen to you. She's very unpopular. They need to get lines out that into people's brains that there are, you know, that they've got to terrify people out of voting for One Nation and the Liberal Party, and to do that, they need a leader that people will listen to. It's clear people will not listen to her. They've made up their mind about Jacinta Allen, the Premier, and so she has to go, I think, is the general view amongst the people in the caucus now. And her stubbornness in refusing to call a Royal Commission over the corruption in the big build has just solidified that view.
Well, that seems like it was just the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. And look, I do want to ask you actually about One Nation, but the Deputy Premier, Ben Carroll, he has told Jacinta Allen that he will challenge for the Labor leadership. Tell us about him. What's he about, and would he be the right person to try and turn the party's bad polling around?
Well, he couldn't do worse. I mean, to be honest, they're coming to the end of 12 years in government. Clearly, the state's finances are a mess. Crime is very bad. The unemployment is worse than in other states. You know, it doesn't really matter who is sitting in the chair in November. Those problems will still be there. Carroll is from the right of the party. He's probably not so much associated with the disasters of the big build, so he can afford to call a Royal Commission knowing he's not going to get caught in it. There's also, you know, he's from the right of the party. He's been a reasonably good education minister. I mean, my kids are at state schools here. He's got devices out of the classroom. He's insisted on phonics. He's phasing out composite classes, and all. You know, there are reasons to believe that he is one of the sort of Labor person who can, from time to time, stand up to the unions, as he has in the education union. So, you know, you would hope he would be better than Jacinta, who's been a prisoner of the building unions. Is it too late for them? I suspect it is. But, you know, they've got to roll the dice. They've got to try something. It's just because if they don't try something, they're heading for annihilation in November.
Yeah, a last roll of the dice, as you said. Let's talk about One Nation. You know, you mentioned how this has probably escalated because of that threat from that party. How well is One Nation doing in Victoria, and how genuine of a contender is that party?
I think they're doing well. I mean, every poll shows that they're going, you know, they've surged to the high teens or low 20s. I still think that there is a sufficient gap between their primary vote and the Liberal Party's primary vote, that One Nation around the place will end up electing Liberal members. I was talking to a pollster last week who said that the kind of preference discipline he's seeing from One Nation is Greens-like. I mean, 90% of Greens votes go to the ALP. He's seeing when he's in his stuff that 90% of the One Nation preferences are heading to the Liberals. So I think the One Nation will win some seats, and they'll certainly be an important part of the upper house. The Liberal Party won't be able to do anything, get any legislation through the Legislative Council without One Nation supports. They're going to win seats there. But in the lower house, I think they're going to, although they'll win some seats, in most cases they're going to end up electing Liberals.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I guess Pauline Hanson, she's hopeful that she can make a dent in Victoria, as she has in other parts of the country. That would be her aim, I suspect, for the party. Let's talk about Jess Wilson. The Liberal leader has told The Australian today that she would serve as both Premier and Treasurer if elected. You mentioned it. The books are pretty bad in Victoria. A good idea or not, do you think, James?
Well, it's happened before. When Brax came to office in 1999, he was both Treasurer and Premier. No, I don't think it's a good idea because as Treasurer, Treasurers need or ministers need a Court of Appeal that sits above the Treasurer. If you've got a Treasurer who's also the Premier, there's no place for people to go to get decisions reversed or reconsidered. So I don't think that it's that great an idea. The problem is there really isn't anyone else who's as good at the job as she is or is an obvious candidate. If there was anyone who they felt could be as credible as her, she would have given them that job. But unfortunately, there isn't one at this point.
All right, well, look, it's going to be an interesting few days. We're watching your coverage closely. James Campbell, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Still to come, lefties losing it, plus the Democratic Socialists of America call for the abolishment of prisons and borders. Josh Hammer will have the latest from the US next. Now it is time for lefties losing it, and the Liberal crazy lunatics are back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, riddle me this, please. A man with ties to Islamic circles allegedly drives his van into crowds at an LGBTQ plus event in Germany. Yeah, we're all shocked, not. But guess who the left are blaming? White men.
People who were celebrating about this were all white men, young white men, with crosses in their profiles. Because we've all seen it. We've all seen how you guys react towards gay people and how you wish harm on them constantly. I get a constant hate on my videos, especially about trans people. You're not going to hide behind another scapegoat group and pretend that they're actually the violent ones when it's you. You hold the same exact beliefs that this man who did this attack did. And you're trying to distance yourself from it. And you know why you're trying to do that? It's because you're ashamed. And you should be.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, the useful idiots, the man-hating pink hair brigade, and their complete ignorance of Islam. The denial is breathtaking. And it's these types that actually pose the biggest threat to the West. Now, move over, Queers for Palestine. There's another new kid on the block, the Trans for Palestine. Yeah, who's going to tell him, you or me? Do they know what happens to trans and LGBTQI plus people in Palestine? Again, who's going to tell him, you or me? And how about this guy at Berlin Pride?
Well, Israel is the aggressor in the entire Middle Eastern region right now, bombing everyone while, like, each and every day you have these ceasefires being discussed, which are, like, at the same time being just completely ignored by Israel.
Yes, of course, Palestine and Iran are the true allies of the rainbow community. True allies. It's all very sweet, isn't it? The derangement and self-loathing stupidity knows no bounds. But here is my favourite. Have a look at this character at London Trans Pride. Yes, the Muslim community will really rally with that one. They'll love that. A symbol of oppression among a sea of self-liberated, idiotic lefties. And why is it that the left love to play the victim?
90% of pigs in the UK are gassed to death, but turfs still exist.
Yes, another day, another open endorsement of violence among the tolerant left. The trans community really are just so oppressed, aren't they? I mean, it's as about as big of a lie as the prospect that men are women. And now to the UK, where Britain's political leaders are hard at work.
Party. And he's so happy about it, he's doing a little dance on the front of the stage.
Wow, so that is the state of UK politics. It is one big joke. Now, Donald Trump really is showing how much of a comedian he really is. At a White House press corps dinner, he gave dimwit, Liberal-obsessed CNN anchor Caitlin Collins a reality check.
She's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Caitlin, do you have a smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Caitlin, just smile. But we attack, and I thought Caitlin had really made it big with a major new sponsorship, but then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can, it was Dylan Mulvaney.
I don't know about you, but yeah, actually, I can really see the resemblance. Both weak, woke, and ridiculous. And in that sweater, 2 peas in a pod. Seriously, nobody is better at trolling than Donald Trump.
People have no idea how lucky you are. When I'm gone, you're all going to be broke. Your business model is going to be finished. No, it's true. When I'm not around, you're going to be broke. There's not going to be anybody to report on. Nobody gives a damn about anybody else. Tonight, to show just how much I care about the press, and I want to save your ratings, I'm pleased to announce my intention to, and this is somewhat of a scoop, my intention to run for a 4th term as President of the United States.
A Democratic Socialists of America leader has admitted the group wants to, ready for it, abolish prisons, borders, the Senate, and lots more. DSA National Co-Chair Megan Roma has laid out the radical wish list during a round of truth or false questions on Fox News.
Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Joining me now is Newsweek's senior editor-at-large, Josh Hammer. Josh, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. Quite the radical wish list. Is this not another example of the dangers of these sorts of socialist types?
You know, Danica, it would be one thing if this were relegated to the fringe of the Democrat Party, this relegated to the fringe of the American left. But the DSA at this point is the beating heart. It is the heart and soul of the American left. We know this because they're winning elections. They are literally the ones who are picking the current crop of candidates to run on the Democratic Party slate. Zohran Mamdani is a DSA person himself. He is the mayor of America's largest, most prominent, and most famous city. And he is now the kingmaker. Zohran Mamdani is now the singular kingmaker in the Democratic Party. He's the closest thing that party currently has to a Barack Obama 2.0 type figure. And you look at what they're calling for. And my God, I mean, not only is this subversive, not only is this insurrectionist, it is wildly anti-American, it is wildly anti-Western civilization. You cannot have these views. You cannot have these stupid positions and also claim fidelity to the Constitution of the United States. So I want to be very clear on this. If at this point you live in my country, the United States, and at this point, if you still love the United States Constitution, which you should because it is the greatest founding charter known to man to this day, then you cannot support anyone remotely close to this, because these people are openly calling to burn it down. They are now, they're saying the quiet part, Danica, out loud. And whatever we thought that maybe they were trying to be coy, maybe they were just trying to use a bunch of nice mellifluous sounding euphemisms, trying to make it sound a little bit more, a little bit lower key, but we know what they're thinking. Now they're not even bothering. They're not even bothering with that whole charade. They're saying it all out loud, and it is freaking nuts. But the thing is, this is the party. The polling shows, Pew, Gallup, all the major American pollsters show that there are now more registered Democrats, not just DSA, but all Democrats who have a higher, more favorable view of socialism than capitalism, and the list goes on and on and on. These are no longer just positions relegated to the DSA. They are becoming the beating soul of the Democratic Party, and that is ultimately what's on the ballot this November and beyond.
Yeah, it's a real worry, because they're saying that quiet part out loud now. Then they have no shame. They just want an America with no rules, these bizarre socialist rules, and they're happy to talk about it so publicly. I mean, gosh, what a disaster to go that far to the left. It is actually, I think, quite a concern. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders. I don't know about you, Josh, but I think he's really losing it. He insists that he has no regrets about his staunch defence of disgraced oyster farmer Graham Plattner. Sanders had been among Planter's earliest backers. You recall he stuck by him during those scandals, defended him after the revelations emerged that he cheated on his wife, got a tattoo of a Nazi symbol, and even when several women accused him of sexual misconduct. But Josh, you know, he's come out again saying, no regrets, I stand by what I said. What do you make of this revelation?
Well, it's quite ludicrous, isn't it? In fact, it's almost beyond parody, because the main Democratic Party itself, like the actual party that governs the Democrats in the state of Maine, they have regrets. They have lots of regrets. In fact, they've said so quite openly and plainly, is that we wish we had not gone down this road. And why do they wish that they had not gone down this road? Not that they feel any moral shame, not that they feel any kind of stigma, not that they're having any kind of doubts about the fact that they lied and they covered up and they worked with the New York Times to bury all these horrific allegations about misconduct and rape. No, the reason that they're worrying actually is because they actually might not get a candidate on the ballot. So Troy Jackson, who was just voted by the delegates to be the new nominee in Maine, that happened just this past weekend, he's arguably going to be a victim of Maine's sore loser law. So various states here in the United States have what's called a sore loser law, which basically says that if you run for a certain office in one cycle and you lose in the primary, you can't then jump and run for another office. This is a state-by-state thing. Maine happens to have a sore loser law. So they might basically be screwed. And the Maine Democrats are starting to freak out. Bernie Sanders has no such druthers, because he is, I mean, Bernie Sanders was basically Zohar Mamdani before Zohar Mamdani was Zohar Mamdani. Bernie Sanders is an absolute lunatic. Need I remind the viewers here, he is a man who literally honeymooned in the USSR. You can't make this crap up. He actually honeymooned in the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War in the 1970s, because again, Bernie Sanders has never been shy of saying the quiet part out loud. He hates this country. He hates what it stands for. He wants to burn it down by any means necessary. In the 1970s, that meant that Bernie flew behind the Iron Curtain to go honeymoon with the hammer and sickle flag. These days, apparently, he's having no remorse but endorsing someone with a Totenkopf Nazi tattoo, because whether it's the communists, the Nazis, or some other vehicle, whether it's radical Islam or something else, whatever takes down America, whatever takes down the West, you can sign Bernie Sanders up for it. He is beyond shame.
Yeah, he's beyond gone at that same time. He's beyond shame and beyond gone. It's terrifying, really. Let's talk about popular children's YouTube educator, Miss Rachel. Look, I've been a little bit worried about her rhetoric for some time now and what this means for her educating of children. But it's been revealed that she gave $3,000 to progressive Democrat Abdul El-Sayed's Michigan Senate campaign. As I said, Josh, I find some of it quite anti-Israel, and I think the fact that she's donated to this campaign is a concern. She's very anti-ICE. You know, she inserts her politics basically where I don't think it would be appropriate, Josh, for somebody who's meant to be educating the next generation. I mean, what do you think that means?
Yeah, Miss Rachel's a nightmare. She's an absolute nightmare. She's a leftist. She's a Marxist. She's a Democratic socialist, whatever you want to describe her. Her views are left-wing down the line, whether it's immigration, whether it's LGBT and all of that entails. She's, as you mentioned, vehemently anti-Israel, pro-Hamas. It's revolting. And personally, I can assure you, Danica, that here in the Hammer household, we do not play any Miss Rachel content for our children. All my like-minded friends here on the American right think and feel the same. No one here on the right is showing Miss Rachel to their children. Unfortunately, she does have an audience when it comes to left-wing America. And ultimately, childhood education is just one of the many parts of America's ever-roiling culture war. I think perhaps there's some fanciful way that we would like to move beyond that and say, oh, we all want to have the same influencers, the same educators. That's just not the nature of this country. Perhaps it never was. It's not the nature of this country in the year 2026. A lot of lefties will send their children to woke, indoctrinated public schools and private schools, for that matter. A lot of my religious friends will homeschool, and then they will go to classical schools, classical Christian schools, things of that nature. So this is just one of the many fault lines of America's ever-roiling cultural divide. The problem is that Miss Rachel has a massive audience and a massive market share, and there is, to this point, there's really no singular right-of-center equivalent to that. There are some kind of more niche boutique-style presenters on YouTube and elsewhere, some of which my wife and I have explored on our own. But the market is kind of craving a Miss Rachel who is not absolutely, completely besotted by left-wing woke ideology. So if anyone out there is willing to kind of take up this call and wants to have a shot at educating the hammered children, all of our friends here in America who have not gone crazy, then I say rise to the challenge and let's see it.
100%. They could make a lot of money just from sticking to their own lane. I just don't understand these people. Why can't they just do their job? You don't have to insert politics. Nobody is watching you for your political views. Kids are watching you because you're fun and you're funny, and that's why parents like you. Honestly, I really despair for the left and the way it's going, Josh. Now, our viewers will remember Dr. Anthony Fauci, who was the face of the COVID pandemic in the US. Well, some of his diary entries written during the pandemic have been revealed, and they show how he became increasingly fixated on his newfound fame. One letter dated April 7, 2020 read, "Press still hot and heavy about me. Multiple stories per day, directly or indirectly involving me." On May 21, 2020, he wrote that his national and international fame is explosive and really unimaginable. Wow, Josh, I mean, this guy was responsible for the COVID response in the US. We had people that were dying, not just in the US, but across the world. And this guy was more interested in his fame and his notoriety. What does that tell you?
I think it says a lot. I think it really says all you need to know actually about the motivation and what was actually driving Fauci and his merry band of misfits. Look, May 2020, that was literally April 7th was less than a month into the lockdowns. The lockdown started around March 14th, March 15th here in the United States. I mean, at that time, Anthony Fauci should have been, I mean, first of all, he shouldn't have had any free time. I mean, he was the point man for the biggest pandemic response in America in, a century since the Spanish flu. So he really should not have been sleeping at all. He should not have had any free time. And he should have been focused monolithically on trying to make sure that Americans were best equipped. And beyond that, he should have been making sure that our response was worth it. That what we did in those very, very, very costly first few weeks and those first few months. By the way, the actual full cost of COVID-19 and the whole Western world response to it, very much including the United States, unfortunately, it's going to take us probably decades actually to actually learn the full scope and scale of that response. Because we're just talking about Miss Rachel and childhood education. Think about the years of social interactions that children 2, 3, 4 years old, et cetera, just missed out. They missed out on the playground. They missed out in kindergarten, their classmates. These are real skills. Children will develop later in life. Skills that would have been developed in the workforce were delayed. This is a massive, 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 massive cost. And Fauci and his team should have been thinking about all of these things. They of course, should have been thinking about things like social distancing. There's a buzzword from the ghastly past. They should have been thinking about things like K95 masks. Do these things actually work? Are they actually efficacious? And by the way, he probably should not have been prematurely writing off the lab leak theory, the theory that is now endorsed by more agencies of the United States government than it is not endorsed by. So, I mean, Fauci misplayed this thing every which way from Sunday. But I think these messages that you've just showed the audience reveal that this is a man who was motivated not necessarily by the science that the so-called trusted science crowd was was touting on every given day ending in Y. No, they were motivated actually by some ulterior and self-serving factors. And I think that is one of the many, many things that will ultimately culminate in this band of misfits being viewed, shall we say, less than favorably when it comes to history's judgment.
Absolutely. And you're right. There were kids that lost out on vital education years. You had businesses going broke because they could not open for an extended period of time. Livelihoods absolutely turned upside down. People dying. And this guy was obsessed with himself. I think it is an absolute blight on that pandemic. And I really do think there should always be inquiries into what went wrong, because he is an example of what did go wrong. I've got to ask you about some of Donald Trump's jokes. I just find him absolutely hilarious. He has joked that he will run for re-election as he hit out at the media while giving a speech to the Washington press corps. Have a look at a bit of what he had to say over the weekend.
I won 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again. Thank you. I'm going to do it. Should be easy. I'm getting very good at running for president.
Josh, I just love the way that he trolls the press and the media pack. A lot of those who were in the audience on that night were from the Liberal media. But I love his confidence. He puts the hat on and he's not ashamed to say it like it is.
Donald Trump is a very, very, very funny man. In fact, I have long said this is one of his greatest political attributes. He is really, really funny. He comes across as just a genuine guy that you would like to have a beer with, as we say in American politics. Hold aside, he's actually a teetotaler, he doesn't drink. That's neither here nor there. But he's the kind of guy who, in theory, you would like to kind of cheers with and kind of just spend a couple hours just watching a basketball game, some sporting match, and kind of just drinking some beers and hanging out. He also has other various political skills. He has an instinctive knack for the art of the 80-20 issue, as I talked about. But really, his humor, above all, I think is one of the greatest secrets to his success, and one of the biggest reasons why he has been kind of the singular figure on the American political stage for a decade or more now. By the way, he had a lot of really funny jokes at this White House Correspondents' Dinner. He had this one joke about Barry Weiss, who's a friend of mine, the head of CBS News. He had this one joke at Barry's expense that actually had me just bursting out laughing for minutes on end. So whoever wrote those jokes, whether it was Trump, whether his writers, whoever was there, really, really funny. But ultimately, Danica, a joke is only as good as the person who can actually deliver it. And Donald Trump, again, he's got a lot of experience here as the former host of The Apprentice, one of the most popular reality TV shows in America for seasons and seasons on end, 5-10 years, however long it was on American TV. It's a guy who loves the camera. He's very good in front of a camera there. And again, you know, love or hate Donald Trump, I feel pretty confident in saying that the next president, and I hate to break it to some folks, but it won't be Trump. He's not going to run. Actually, he's just trolling. Whoever the next president is, whoever he or she may be, I guarantee you that it's not going to be quite as funny or entertaining on a daily basis as Donald Trump. So if nothing else, enjoy that while it lasts.
Oh, yes, I completely agree. There's certainly no shortage of fun moments when it comes to Donald Trump. Josh Havert, nice to catch up as always. Thanks very much for joining me. Still to come, get ready for a cringe fest. Meghan Markle's disastrous MasterChef episode airs. Kinsey Schofield will join me to break it all down next. Welcome back. Joining me now is host of the Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered podcast, Kinsey Schofield herself. Nice to see you as always. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Look, we've got to start with Meghan Markle. She's made her long-awaited appearance on MasterChef Australia over the weekend, and during the show she received a surprise video call from her husband Prince Harry. Have a look at this. Oh, cringe, Kinsey, as if the whole episode couldn't get a lot worse. Then Prince Harry has to even phone in.
Why did you not prepare me for that jump scare?
Sorry.
I know. That was a lot of face. That was a lot of forehead from Prince Harry. Call me cynical, but I don't believe for a second that Prince Harry just happened to FaceTime Meghan Markle while the cameras were rolling. I think we've watched Meghan operate long enough to know that very little about the presentation of brand Meghan is accidental. She's a total control freak, if I'm being like the nicest way I could possibly say it. But that gives producers a cute television moment. But more importantly, it reminds everybody why Meghan is ultimately there in the first place, because of who she married. Otherwise, what qualifies her to be on that show in that position?
Yeah, no, she has absolutely zero qualifications other than just having made an appearance in a television series once, and well, that was a flop, and everything she's done since has been an absolute flop. But you're right, it was a bit of a jump scare. Now, look, it's been revealed that Harry and Meghan also visited Princess Diana's childhood home in Althorpe during their recent trip abroad. She hid their faces, but Meghan has actually shared some photos of Princess Lilibet and Prince Archie during that trip. Well, Kinsey, the worldwide privacy tour just continues.
Yeah, this is where I struggle with Meghan's, Meghan's position on not sharing images of your children online and taking her seriously as an authority in that place. These aren't photographs taken by paparazzi hiding behind a hedge. Someone is photographing Harry tossing Lilibet in the swimming pool, Meghan sunbathing, intimate family moments, the picture of her standing on the beach. Like, who was that guy? The way that she's standing there in her bathing suit reminds me of Borat when he's in the neon bathing suit. You can't continuously monetize glimpses of your private family and then act astonished that the public is interested in your private life. Apparently, privacy means nobody else can take photographs, but Meghan's photographer is perfectly acceptable.
Oh, absolutely. Well, she is the ultimate hypocrite. After all, it's all very acceptable. And yeah, I did see the comparisons with her bathing suit, even some to like Princess Diana, but at least Princess Diana looked lovely in hers. Now, Kinsey, there's a bit of concern that Harry Styles might be burning himself out on the world tour. This is quite worrying because he was forced to cancel a gig in Brazil this week due to tour illness. What's going on here?
Well, the headline should be that Harry Styles missed one show. The remarkable thing is how many shows he's managed to pull off at this level. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was joking that one Harry Styles, was running 6 miles through London before entertaining 90,000 people at Wembley. Apparently, even somebody capable of doing that needs to take a nap every now and then, needs to a sick day. But he's done incredible things, sold out 12 nights at Wembley Stadium, has a 30-night Madison Square Garden residency on the horizon. I'm exhausted just reading his itinerary, but he has accomplished a lot in a short amount of time.
He has, and he's also very young, but wow, a residency as well. That guy's going to be earning a lot more money even on top of what he already is. That's absolutely massive. Now, Comic-Con is underway in San Diego, and Marvel Studios have revealed that Ryan Gosling will be the next Ghost Rider. Kinsey, is there anyone not part of Marvel at this point?
Apparently, joining Marvel is now like jury duty for attractive Hollywood actors. Eventually, your number gets called. But Ryan Gosling as Ghost Rider actually makes sense to me. He's reached that weird, wonderful point in his career where he can do Oscar caliber work. He can play Ken. He can jump into Star Wars and now becoming of like a flaming skulled motorcycle riding superhero. That's apparently going to be on his resume too, and it's not particularly strange. I also love the full circle moment here. Eva Mendes, his partner, starred in the original 2007 Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage as the love interest. So technically, Ryan is joining the family business.
Well, there you go. It's good news all round. Now, you mentioned Ken, and I think that Gavin Newsom is the Californian Ken doll. The governor is in a world of pain. A new statewide poll found nearly 2/3 of Californians oppose Newsom's 2035 gas car mandate. It's not looking good, Kinsey.
And my problem has always been the practical contradiction. California wants millions more people to depend on electricity for transportation, while we're being told periodically that during these extreme heat times to conserve electricity to protect the grid. You can't simultaneously tell people the electric grid is under enormous strain and then mandate that everybody's next car eventually plug into it without convincing us the infrastructure can handle that.
No, exactly. Another one of his Ken doll thought bubbles into the never that never actually eventuate. They're all just dreams, pipe dreams. Kinsey Schofield, lovely to see you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
That's it from me. Up next is Newsnight. Good night.